Hello everyone, welcome back to some more of the Great Ace Attorney Chronicles. And yeah, it's been a while for me, about, 2 weeks since the last episode in fact, just because I've been busy with other stuff. So I'm sorry if I don't go over everything, but last time, if I remember correctly, we finished our Great Dance of Deduction. And found that, Mr. Natsume was at the scene of the crime. And that the victim, William Shakespeare, wasn't really a victim. Well, he is a victim, but he's not a dead victim. He's alive, just poisoned. And so he's been carted off to the hospital. As well as Natsume, because he was there at the scene. He's the prime suspect, so he's been carted off to jail. After that, we went to the Garrett residence, as you see here, to talk about things and, most importantly, find out how the Garrett have been knowing the guests' movements. In that, by every room, inside every room, there's a gas, I guess, gas pump or gas meter or whatever, because you have to drop coins in to pay for gas. That way your room can get heat, can have electricity and stuff, right? So, but the issue is everything is running on the same pole. So if one person turns on the gas, that means there's less for everyone else, meaning the lights get a bit dimmer. And so by looking at when the lights get dimmer and such, you can find out when they're home or what they're doing, or that kind of thing. And so with all that being said, I guess let's kind of continue on. I don't plan on going for too long, so yeah. Anyways, I guess let us head to. Let's head to the prison next, because we will need to talk to Natsume to, I guess, get his idea of what exactly happened that night. 21st of February, local prison, cell 9. Look, Mr. Naruhodo. Mr. Natsume, have the police finished questioning you now? Locum student Mr. Naruhodo, Esquire! Oh. Yes? What is he? Tell me! Is he a ghost? Is he here to haunt me? Let me guess. You're talking about Mr. Sholmes? He actually calls himself a great detective, Mr. Natsume, not a ghost. But his diabolic deductions, they're not of this world. They've left me. Cursed. I'm cursed, I tell you. Well, that sort of hurts. Credit where credit is due, Mr. Naruhodo. You were heavily involved in the deduction, too. Yes. Moving on. We have some wonderful news. Oh? The victim that we all thought was dead has come back to life again. Now, in the absolutely worst case, you could only be tried for attempted murder. That's great, isn't it, Mr. Natsume? It's terrible! Oh. I'm stuck in the cell, suffering for some silly wrong end of the stick. You did it, didn't you? Confess! You're a killer. Why the mustache? Constant questions! I'm sorry to hear that. That's selfish shyster. Make up your mind. Are you dead or alive? If you are going to come back to life, why bother dying? Wickedly wishy-washy William. Well, it seems likely that Mr. Shakespeare was never actually dead in the first place. Ah, yes, that might make sense. And I'm pleased he's alive, of course. Our lively debate last night was much fun. I'd be sad to think it was our last. Oh. What was that? Okay. Sorry, something just came up there. Mr. Natsume? Does this mean that you did see the victim last night? you met with Mr. Shakespeare, didn't you? I'm not saying another word. I demand to have a lawyer present. Who do you think I am? Please, Mr. Natsume, we need to hear your side of the story. Why am I cursed like this? Alright, what happened? Can you tell us exactly what happened last night then, Mr. Natsume? There's nothing to tell! But, Mr. Naruhodo Esquire, I'm eternally grateful to you for helping me with that accursed case yesterday. The case that saw poor Miss Green hospitalized after she ended up with a knife in her back. It's hard to believe that was only yesterday. After the trial was over, I trudged my weary way back to my lowly lodgings, and that evening at 9:30 it must have been, I visited Mr. Shakespeare. So, you did go to the victim's room then? As we feared. I didn't do anything wrong! I'd never been to his room before. It was the first time. Then, what made you decide to go? I bumped into him when I arrived back at the house. We got chatting, and it developed into a discussion. But he had to go out, so I bade him farewell. That ties in with what Mr. Gerardus said, that the victim went out and came back after 8. We met again later that evening, at around 9 or just after, when I took him some nice tea I'd brewed as a gift. So it was you who brought the tea that had clearly been drunk at the scene then. And I suppose you were discussing the works of Shakespeare, were you? Yes, that's right. That's exactly right. Romeo and Juliet, who was the stronger? It was a delightful debate. I'm sure. Such a stimulating subject, Shakespeare! And the debate became very heated, so you slipped poison into Mr. Shakespeare's tea? No, never, not at all. Team Juliet won, that was me, and when I left his room, the flamboyant fellow was fighting fits, I swear it, categorically. Mr. Natsume, you often say the same thing about yourself, I've noticed. That you have a cursed existence. I'm sure I've mentioned this to you before, but I've been here in Great Britain for a year now, and in that time, I've learned that it is no place for me. It can be a very trying time to live in a foreign land, and to adapt to the ways of another culture. There are foreigners everywhere I look, and they all stare at me. They all laugh. That's the impression I get wherever I go out. It makes me scared to leave my room. Which is why I've become a recluse. But even in my room, I find no respite from my fears. I've moved more times than I can remember. And then, 1 week ago, I moved into Briar Road. But why? I mean, why did you choose that place? It doesn't seem very comfortable. Because the rent is cheap. I have so little money it spoke to me. The rent? Obviously, there's a reason why it's cheap. Because the room is cursed. Cursed? Cursed how? The previous occupant, the man who lived there before I, died there. Oh no. He was only a young man, but one morning he was found dead, and no one could explain why. Surely no one would want to live in a room with a history like that. I didn't. When the letting agent recommended the place, I wavered. But I want books, and books cost money. A horrible history is a small price to pay. When I realized it would mean I could buy more books, I signed the lease like lightning. Brave or blinkered? Alright, and I'm back. Sorry, something just came up again I had to take care of. But after I moved in, I soon came to realize what I'd done. I realized how horrible that room's history really was. Gosh, was it really so awful? What exactly happened to the guy? How did the room's horrible history affect you, Mr. Natsume? What happened? At first, it was just a feeling. The feeling of beady eyes boring into my back, watching me. Do you think that might just have been your mind playing tricks on you? No. My mind doesn't do any tricks. It was somebody else. It's been one long nightmare ever since I was given the keys to the place. A nightmare? You've been having bad dreams, you mean? All the souls who have died in that room lean over me in my sleep and try to strangle me. That really is horrible. And now I come to think of it, it happened again last night too. The very same night that Mr. Shamspeare was writhing in agony from the poison in his body. I was on the verge of being suffocated silently by those miserable spirits in my room. You simply must move out of that room as soon as possible. Yes, you're right. I know it. And that's why I'm already searching for the next room with a history to call home. I think perhaps you should try to avoid accommodation with any kind of history at all. Otherwise, I'm scared that you yourself may become history. Whew, Susato-san sure knows how to make the man listen. Wow. Of course, Mr. Lord of the Manor is worried about the curse on my room as well. You mean Mr. Giradab? Yes, he knows that if people keep dying there, he'll never be able to rent it out again. Well, that's true. I, for one, wouldn't go near the place. Ah, perhaps that may explain why the landlord pays so much attention to the gas lamps and his tenants' movements. You mean because he's worried about their well-being? He does seem to have an unusually keen interest in the amount of gas in the pipes. There must be a reason why he keeps such close tabs on the occupants of his let rooms. What do you mean he pays so much attention to the gas lamps? Oh dear, no, it's nothing to do with you, Mr. Natsume. Please, forget I said anything. Oh, now you're talking about me behind my back as well? What's important is that Mr. Shamspeare isn't in fact dead at all. Once he's come round and he's able to tell us what happened, we'll be able to get you released. Yes, please. Oh, I do hope you're right. Who said that? Ahem. Excuse me. Oh. Inspector Gregson.
I couldn't help overhearing what you just said. And on that note, I have some good news and some bad news.
Oh.
Which you want first?
Always. Every time. The bad news comes first. When help is all you have, hold on to it. That's my guiding principle.
Right. Well, in that case, the good news it is.
Huh?
Sorry. It's just a lot easier to explain everything that way.
Then why did you ask me my preference?
As you might have heard, the victim, Mr. Shamspeare, was just unconscious. He's come round now.
Yes, we saw it happen in all of its terrifying glory.
He's still being treated by the doctors, but we've managed to get a written statement from him already.
Oh, isn't that wonderful, Mr. Natsume? Oh, thank goodness. It's all over then. I can leave this somber cell.
Sorry, no, that's not on the cards.
What? Why have I not, Inspector?
Mr. Shamspeare has implicated someone as being responsible for what happened last night.
Implicated someone? Oh, dear. You, you don't mean...
I'm sorry to say I do. Yes, he's pointing the finger at you, Mr. Natsume.
Ah!
By sweet poison did he seeketh to end my life. That wickedest caitiff, Soseki Natsume.
No.
So, I'm afraid you'll be appearing in court as planned. You'll be wanting to make the necessary preparations.
And so, once again, Soseki-san found himself having to take the dock in the Old Bailey. Whether his room was haunted or whether he was just terribly unlucky, I knew I had no choice. The following day, I would represent him in court and do my utmost to break the curse that blighted him. Now, that's great. Yep, that's just stupendous. I guess let's save our progress. Why not? We started here, so I guess we'll save at number 4, since we're on number 5 now. Oh. We're already in trial? Really? I didn't think... Let me look for a second. There's the investigation segment. Congratulations. Trial. Okay, so I guess this trial for this is long? Oh! Oh, no, okay. Never mind then. Never mind. I know it's gonna... Okay, never mind. Alright, sorry about that. I had to look at the guide I'm using so I can see what exactly is gonna come next. Okay, that's why. Okay. Anyways, let us continue. We're only about 20 minutes in, so we can go feasibly for another 14 more minutes. 22nd of February, 9:23 a.m. The Old Bailey, Defendant's Antechamber. The Old Bailey. This place always makes me feel strange. I seem to get chills down my spine and break out in a nervous sweat all at the same time. Well, I didn't think I'd be back here so soon. That's my line! Good morning! Ah, good morning, Mr. Natsume. It was only 2 days ago that I was declared not guilty here. Yes, we somehow managed to prove that he didn't stab Miss Green in the back. But now this! Another morning, another murder, and here I am again in this hellhole. Can't keep coming to court. I'm beginning to think he's right. It really does seem as though he's cursed. Mr. Naruhodo, I'm afraid I have bad news. Oh. Mr. Natsume, good morning. Yeah, it doesn't seem like it'll be good. Yes, morning. So, here we are again. Yes, again. Judicial Miss Mikotoba Esquires! What's the bad news? Oh, dear. You heard, didn't you? If you come in shouting at the top of your voice, people can't help hearing what you say! Oh, I'm sorry. You've done nothing wrong, Mr. Sato. Now, what is it? Well, it seems that the prosecution in today's trial will be led by Lord Baruch van Zieks. And here we go again. Let me do this all in real time. Is it Zeeks or Zikes? To pronounce Z-I-E-K-S. I think it's pronounced like Zeeks or something, not Zikes. Oh, here it is. Is Baruch van Zieks' name pronounced? Van Zieks is a Dutch name, and I-E is pronounced E. Okay, so it is Van Zieks. Okay, with two E's. Okay. I thought it would be like a German name, like Zai, Drei, Zai, whatever. Anyways, Van Zieks. Oh no, oh no, no. The so-called Reaper of the Bailey, the most legendary prosecutor in the land. In the trial 2 days ago, he pursued Soseki-san and I relentlessly. Of course, by the skin of our teeth. We managed to pull through, but still. Perhaps Mr. Natsume's acquittal in the last trial wasn't the end of the matter after all. Yes, I know what you're thinking. The legend of the Reaper that says, nothing can save a person in the dock when Lord Van Zieks is the prosecutor. Oh no. Not even if the person is found not guilty, the accused will meet a mysterious end one way or another. And we've experienced it firsthand. With McGilded. A man we successfully defended met the most terrifying end after his acquittal. Right here in the Old Bailey. Do I have to put up with those ice-cold eyes boring into my soul again? Cursed by evil spirits, and now by the Reaper! Pair of petrifying perils, potentially! Well, if it's potentially, at least you appear to have hope, Mr. Natsume. Locum student Mr. Naruhodo Esquire! Ah, yes? I'm innocent! You have to believe me! You, more than anyone now. Don't worry. I'll be your steadfast ally every step of the way in this battle. I promise. And this promises to be a hard battle, I fear. Well, the trial is scheduled to begin shortly. We should move into the courtroom. Let's go. Oh, yes, I forgot to say. I'm afraid he won't be able to make it. Mr. Sholmes, I mean. That's probably for the best. Oh, if he were here, I might be tempted to rely on his help. And that could be seen as a weakness. If Lord Van Zieks were to notice, he'd prey upon it mercilessly. At least, that's my gut feeling, which we actually did see in Case 5, now that I think about it, right? We tried relying on Sholmes' inventions, but he basically just nullified them, saying they weren't actual technology. So, yeah. Mr. Naruhodo. You're right. Yes, you're so right. Oh, well said, locum student Mr. Naruhodo Esquire. Well said. I swear on this sword by my side, and on the spirit of Kazuma that it harbors. I'll show him what a Japanese lawyer can do. I'll set you free, with honor. Oh, yes. (22nd of February, 9:40 a.m. The Old Bailey courtroom.
It's been a while since I've done...
Was that his voice?
I know these voices.
One voice was for the judge, and the other voice was for Van Zieks. Hold on a second, let me... And that back. Okay, I had to practice both Van Zieks and the judge's voices for a second there. Alright, let's do this.
In the name of Her Majesty the Queen, I hereby declare this court to be in session. I now call upon the counsel for the prosecution and the defense to declare their willingness to proceed.
The prosecution is ready. The defense is ready, my lord.
Reading readiness for trial, my learned Japanese friend, is not what the defense needs. What you need is readiness for your inevitable defeat.
It's not just in my imagination. It's really there. Lord Van Zieks has such an animosity towards us Japanese for some reason. It was some time ago now he first became known as the Reaper of the Bailey, I believe. These past few years he hasn't appeared in court at all. Yet now he's back in the courtroom. Though for some reason, only when I'm defending. This Reaper, with his curious disdain for us Japanese, is a prosecutor shrouded in mystery. Still, this isn't the time to be pondering that. I have to concentrate on Soseki-san's trial.
Furthermore, I now call upon the 6 ladies and gentlemen of the jury. You have been chosen at random to represent the will of the people of this trial. Are you ready to fulfill your duty?
Oh, let's see.
Absolutely. I had a feeling this larrikin wasn't innocent before.
I must say, I feel especially ruthless on days when my house refuses to sit right.
Oh, well, I rather like how you're wearing your hat. I think the ruthless look is very fetching, actually.
I need to be somewhere at 10 o'clock. I have a very important meeting, so let's make this quick.
I couldn't agree more. I need to take home 5 bob tonight, or the mist will go through the roof. Oh, may the Lord show us all the light here, and lead his flock to a righteous verdict.
I'm sorry, what? Random? These are all the same people. Literally everyone's the same except for the lady in yellow. Also, was I too close to the mic? Because I know my old man voice is very loud.
Ugh, whatever.
The British jury system is so very different from our own, isn't it? It's quite extraordinary to think that the power of judgment is in the hands of these 6 members of the public, and that the judge can only pass sentence when all the jurors are in agreement about the defendant's guilt. 6 citizens of London, chosen at random. Or at least that's the idea.
The prosecution would draw attention to the fact that the accused was on trial here but 2 days ago. Accordingly, where possible, the same jurors have been asked to return for duty today. Very well. Let us commence the trial. Lord Van Zeeks, your opening statement, please. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, it is not the intent of the prosecution to cast doubt over your past decisions. However, the innocent verdict, according to the eccentric Nipponese before, has had dire consequences. Did the accused repent for his wrongdoing in that affair? Far from it. Instead, he used his freedom to perpetrate a most blood-curdling crime. Namely, that of the attempted murder of his neighboring lodger, an innocent Englishman. To explain the circumstances of the crime, the prosecution calls its first witnesses to the stand.
Oh.
The detective responsible for investigating the scene, and the accused himself.
Getting serious right from the get-go.
Witnesses, your names and occupations, please.
Sorry if you hear me drinking something. Literally, I don't know why, but I can't do Van Zeek's or Gregson's voice for like too long without my throat literally itching me. So, you do what you gotta. I'll try and, I guess, pause the video when I'm drinking, but whatever.
Yes, sir. Tobias Gregson, Detective Inspector at Scotland Yard's Homicide Division.
Soseki Natsume, from the Empire of Japan. My government ordered me to come here as a student to study your language and culture.
Mr. Natsume.
Yes, my lord, sir.
I'm quite sure, if I'm not mistaken, that you swore an oath never to set foot in my courtroom again. I remember it as if it were yesterday. The day before, in fact, my lord, but close enough.
Believe me, This is the last place I want to be.
Inspector, let us hear from you first. Explain the case for the court. Right you are, sir. The incident occurred at the Garrett household where the defendant has lodgings. In the ground floor of the room of the victim, Mr. William Shamspeare. The defendant had already admitted to visiting the victim on the night in question. Mr. Shamspeare had collapsed in his room as a result of the poisoning by strychnine. It was found the following morning when the landlord, suspecting something was wrong, broke down the door. This means, I presume, that the door to the victim's room was locked at the time of the incident? Correct, my lord. It was locked from the inside, making entry to or exit from the room impossible. Although the victim, Mr. Shamspeare, lives to tell the tale. He very nearly didn't. The man was halfway to heaven when we first found him. I was the first officer on the scene, my lord, and I have a photographic print here I took at the time to show how it looked. Yes, a chilling scene indeed. The man looks very much deceased. That's right. Everyone present believed that's exactly what he was. Very well. I shall accept this photographic print as evidence for the court. Alright. Now then, Mr. Natsume. Yes? As the defendant, do you have anything to say at this juncture?
They're haunted by evil spirits.
Good gracious! What's haunted?
My lodgings. There's been a whole series of strange happenings in my lodgings. The tenant before me died in mysterious circumstances. A woman was stabbed by no one on the street outside. My neighbor was poisoned. And me? What about me? I've nearly been killed countless times.
Killed Mr. Natsume? How?
Even on that fateful night it happened. When I returned from Mr. Shamspeare's room, I lit my gas stove and climbed into bed. But before long, the stove went out, and somebody tried to kill me.
You must always extinguish all fires before retiring for the night, Mr. Natsume.
But it's so cold. My runny nose would freeze. The point is, I didn't poison my neighbor. Oh, why am I being accused of this? Why is my existence so cursed?
Thank you, witnesses. I believe I have a reasonably clear picture of events. If I could raise one more point, my lord. One more conclusive point. Conclusive? Go on. Fortunately, the victim, Mr. Shamspeare, has regained consciousness after his ordeal, and he has named the true culprit. The poison consumed by the victim was administered in a cup of tea he drank on the night in question. Tea, my lord, that was brought to the victim's room by the accused. The accused? Good grief! Order! Order!
Yes, that's the crux of this whole case. If Soseki-san is innocent, then why? Why has the victim accused him?
Well, Mr. Natsume, what have you to say to this accusation?
Sorry, it's like 10:30 right now.
That evening,
Yes, I did take some freshly brewed tea with me when I visited Mr. Shamspeare's room as a gift. The public water pump outside always freezes at night, so I bought bottled water especially to make it. And this is the result. Never will I touch tea again. Never. The public pump is frozen, you say? That's not information we've heard before.
that will do, thank you. Now, according to our laws, The defense must have the opportunity to cross-examine witnesses at least once. Therefore, I call upon these witnesses now for formal testimony. I presume the prosecution has no objection?
None whatsoever, my lord.
Good. Then you will give your account of events on the night in question to the court now.
Yes, my lord. Alright. So, let's see what happened. I assume this will most likely be from Natsume's point of view. Yep. It was around 9 o'clock that evening when I visited my neighbor, and I took some tea with me as a gift. We had a heated literary debate over a nice hot drink, after which I went back to my room at around 11. My tea was completely harmless. He couldn't have locked the door behind me otherwise, could he?
Strychnine soup takes some time to have an effect on the body. People don't keel over immediately after taking it. The victim would have been perfectly able to lock the door after his guest left. The argument still stands.
Yes, I see. It all seems relatively straightforward.
Excuse me, but that testimony does raise one rather crucial point, I think. Mr. Natsume claims his tea to have been harmless. Presumably, though, the teacups have been examined for the traces of the poison, haven't they? Why didn't I think of that?
Well, as it happens, no. We haven't been able to.
Did I hear you correctly, Inspector? Scotland Yard has failed to examine the suspect's substance?
How could you have overlooked something so important? Isn't that the first thing you should have done?
My learned Nipponese friend is falsely incensed. The inspector said Scotland Yard was unable to examine the tea. Not that it was overlooked.
Unable? Why?
It's simple enough. There was none left. Not a drop. Someone must have been very thirsty indeed. With current scientific techniques, it is not possible to test for poison under such circumstances. We only need a drop, but that one drop does have to actually exist, funnily enough. The lack of examination notwithstanding.
Yeah, see what I mean? My voice is already shot from doing Van Zeek's voice.
It appears nothing other than tea passed the victim's lips on the night in question.
I see. Thank you. The matter is clear.
Cast your eyes over the jury, my learned friend.
What?
You can see it in their faces, I'm sure. The recognition of the accused's guilt. Your client's fate is all but sealed. In mere moments from now, you will lose, and your compatriot will be damned for all eternity.
He's right. I can feel all 6 of the jurors looking daggers at me.
But I can't let them beat me down. I won't.
Counsel for the defense, proceed with your cross-examination.
Which will probably be the last thing we do, because we're about 40 minutes in. Alright. So let's see how far we go here. Around 9. Heated literary debate. Harmless, but it takes a while. Okay. Let me look over the evidence again, because I forgot to do that. The book receipts, street map, torn off envelope we found, the teacups themselves. Greenie was Mr. Excuse me? The green one was Mr. Natsume's, meaning the red one was Mr. Shamspeare. I mean, not a drop left. There's stains here. Y'all can't analyze that. Oh, right. One other piece of evidence that, I mean, the game doesn't the game doesn't really point attention to it, but it expects you to know that anyways, which I find is really weird. I think that is one of the main bad things I've felt about this game, was that I found this. I mean, you're supposed to examine this when you get to trial, because it's the next day, and this will come to fruition later, but you're supposed to examine it today, I think. But the weird part is the game doesn't exactly give you any reason to examine this all over again. So I kind of want to get this out of the way. That way, we can remember it when the time comes. And that is this bar of soap here. If we turn it around, there's a hole here, which is weird. Because before, I'm going to see if I can put a picture of it on screen. There was an orange emblem thing here. So why is there a hole in this? Oh. What is it, Mr. Naruhodo? This bar of soap. When we first found it, I could have sworn that there was some sort of round disc in this depression just here. A reddish one. Yes, you're right. I remember it too. But now, the depression is completely empty. Where could the disc have gone? Oh, okay, then it mentions it then. Okay, never mind then. I guess I don't have to edit it. That'll come into play later. I don't know. Actually, oh, okay. That's the extent of their testimony. If I could voice a personal opinion, Mr. Naruhodo. Of course, go ahead. Mr. Natsume is arguing for his innocence so adamantly and so persistently, yet Inspector Gregson just brushes what he says aside. It's really quite infuriating. I agree. So we need to find an inconsistency in what the inspector is saying, I think. Okay. So focus on the poison and the tea. That's our hint. I think that's it. He would have been perfectly able to lock the door. Let's hear more about the poison then.
Hold it!
How long does it take for symptoms to appear then?
According to the coroner I was speaking to at the yard, about 30 minutes after the poison is consumed. Then the victim suffers violent convulsions, cramping and stiffness, and eventually dies from asphyxiation.
So there's a 30-minute interval between when the poison is ingested and the onset of symptoms. There seems to be a lot of different types of poison in the world, that's for sure. Oh dear. Death by poisoning again? It's always so awful.
30 minutes is a long time. Certainly long enough for the victim to have locked the door behind the accused after he left.
You can't deny that. And it further degrades Seki-san's alibi.
I have the medical report from the doctor who examined the victim here, my lord. It spells it out, really. The accused is the only person who could have done it. Very well. The court will add this report to the court record as evidence.
Alright, I may as well see what that's about. Delayed onset of symptoms. Ingestion of small quantity of strychnine, toxic offense 30 minutes after, the likelihood of the substance having been mixed. Was drinking, but no sample could be obtained for testing. Okay. What is this? Occurred around 1:30 at the 21st of February. Huh. So this happened at around 1:30 a.m. Okay. We have a definitive time, which is good to know. Great. The victim would have been perfectly able to lock the door after his guest left.
Hold it!
The argument still stands, you say?
This is what Mr. Natsume has been saying, isn't it? The pair of them drank tea together last night, so if there was poison in it, the victim would have been able to lock the door after the accused left later on.
Exactly! Ugh, me and my tea are innocent. sweet and innocent, I tell you.
I'm afraid, sir, that doesn't follow. You see, strychnine is a slow-acting poison. In other words, it takes time for the symptoms to appear. So you could have left the room up to 30 minutes after the victim drank the tea. And as long as you do that, the victim could have locked the door after you'd gone.
But no. We drank the tea straight away. The battle over whether Romeo or Juliet was stronger. That came after the tea.
Do you have any evidence?
Do you have any evidence to support that statement?
In my great homeland, the Empire of Japan, we have a saying, drink tea while it's hot. Sure, a proverb will satisfy the prosecution.
I'm afraid there's no conclusive proof to support the defendant's assertion. On the contrary, there are sufficient grounds to infer his guilt in this matter.
No. Alright, well I can guess where to go from here. I'm gonna press one more statement to be sure of something. Let's see here. It was around 9 when he brought it over, which he went back around 11. A literary debate about Shakespeare's works, I think you said, didn't you?
Shakespeare, a very worthy topic of conversation, I must say.
Oh, yes, my lord. Romeo and Juliet, who was stronger? It was a profoundly pleasurable parley.
Romeo and Juliet.
Who was stronger?
I know I'm going to regret asking this, but how did the debate go? Well, we both agreed that we would reach a conclusion more quickly with a reenactment.
So, we battled it out, in Greco-Roman style, naturally.
What? Mr. Shakespeare had all sorts of costumes in his room for such a contest. So, when you say a reenactment, you mean you were actually in costume? He as Romeo, I as Juliet, and after a vigorous, wild tussle, I as Juliet came up on top. A victory I'll cherish forever!
I dare not imagine the terrible scene of carnage.
The fact remains that it was you who prepared the tea and took it to the victim, correct?
I boiled the water in my room and made a pot to take with me. I heard he was too poor to have tea himself, you see. It's true. There was no sign of tea leaves in the man's room. Sorry, I just saw it. I was that made me realize something, so I was looking up a picture of something. Actually, I found online this nice picture of that Romeo and Juliet tussle or whatever. Yeah. Anyways, who was the author of this actually? From Tumblr. Good vibes. Okay, whatever. Back to this stuff. It's true. There were no signs of tea leaves in the man's room. I wanted to do something nice, to be friendly. So why is everyone looking at me with such suspicion? My tea was harmless. Of course it was.
And do you have any basis for that statement, witness?
Oh, okay, here it is. The victim would have been perfectly able to lock the door after the guest left. Well, it says here in this that, what's it called? He would have been, the onset would have happened around 1:30. So Oh! Wait a second. Wait a second. They said strychnine's effects activate a good 30 minutes after ingestion, right? But it says here the onset would have had to happen at 1:30, meaning he would have been poisoned at 1. Yet he had a debate which he left at 11. That's a contradiction, because the time he left and the time he were poisoned were two different things.
Objection!
There it is. Mr. Natsume, you said it was 11 p.m. when you left to return to your room, correct?
Yes.
And Inspector Gregson, can we rely on the information in this medical report unconditionally?
Of course we can. There's no problem with that report, Sunshine.
Actually, I think there's a very big problem. Because there's a chronological inconsistency between it and the defendant's testimony.
A chrono... What? What are you on about?
According to this report, the victim must have consumed the poison at around 1:30 in the morning. And yet, the defendant, Mr. Natsume, left the victim's room at 11.
Ah!
Yes, that's right. There's more than 2 hours of missing time there. In other words, if there was poison in the tea that Mr. Natsume brought to the victim's room, how could the victim have fallen ill to it 2.5 full hours after the defendant left? Yeah, they gave them the same model for the surprise animation.
The defense's argument is entirely reasonable. How do you respond, Lord Van Zieks?
Pray forgive the discourtesy of if my mind has wandered. I was considering what cuisine would best complement the contents of my hallowed chalice this luncheon. How could it have happened, you ask? I do hate to shatter illusions, but my Nipponese friend appears to be chasing a phantom idea.
A phantom?
Is it so hard to imagine that the victim drank his tea after the accused had left?
2.5 hours later? Yeah? You want to make sure that your tea is steeped right. 2.5 hours later? I can understand, leaving your tea and then forgetting about it and then, maybe an hour later you see, but 2 hours? Yeah? That's a stretch if I ever saw one.
For example, at the time stated in the medical report, yes, at around 1:30.
Objection!
Mr. Natsume brought the tea with him to drink together with his neighbor. And in Japan, there's a well-known saying, drink tea while it's hot.
Objection!
And in my country, there's an even more apt saying. There is nothing more refreshing than a cold tea.
The point is, if there was such a long gap, there may be other ways to explain how the victim came to be poisoned. Other possibilities.
What sort of possibilities, Counsel?
Well, for example, the man could have had another visitor.
Another visitor? That's a very bold assertion, my learned friend.
From someone who has nothing to substantiate it. Or the victim could have taken the poison of his own volition.
You suggest this may have been a Suishide, Counsel?
Objection!
Mr. Shamsphere has categorically denied suicide. The idea can and must be discounted.
Objection!
But he could be lying.
Is something wrong, Lord Van Zieks?
I was listening to the sound of the carriage pulling up outside the courtroom. Pray, forgive the discourtesy.
Carriage? What carriage?
It would seem that the key player in this case has just arrived.
What key player? Who?
Oh, God. Out, Reef Condal. Life's but a walking shadow.
A poor player that struts and frets his hour upon the stage, and then is heard no more. It is a tale told by an idiot, full of sound and fury, signifying nothing.
Who, sir, are you?
William Shakespeare, my lord. Alas, 'twas I, undone by these bitter events. I am the victim.
What's he doing here? The prosecution ceased to call this gentleman to the stand. With his testimony, my learned friend's futile resistance will be utterly crushed.
You're calling him as a witness?
Very well, counsel. I grant your request with interest. I'm curious to discover what the court shall hear from the victim himself.
Happy am I, Shakespeare, to regale thee with my tale of woe, my lord. But I still have my own tale to tell, my own tale of worse woe.
I can regale the court with my tale of my perfect innocence in perfect English.
That will do, Mr. Natsume. Let the court now hear from the victim.
And I will do that next time. Excuse me, what are you doing here? Actually, let's keep going for a second. Alright, so that's Mr. Shakespeare. But who's that other man beside him? Yes, I feel sure that we've got a glimpse of that man before.
State your names and occupations for the court, please, witnesses.
A writer of words so sweet, they do set the breeze, an inventor of ideas so profound, they compose the earth. The unrivaled poet, the unmatched scribe, William Shakespeare, were the great bard to be recalled to life anew. Lo, what a magnificent man! Good fellows, I am he who ponders such a miracle. William Shakespeare.
The name's Meterman. Adrian B. Meterman. I work for the Altamont Gas Company, East End Branch Office.
Ah, I remember now. It was yesterday on Briar Road. Oh yes, she was right. It's him, that peeping Tom guy. Oh, what's this? What's that man doing over there? Looks like he's trying to peep into Suzuki-san's lodgings. Is something wrong, Mr. Naruto? Excuse me. Could I have a word? Yeah, he just ran off? What? Then he just ran off somewhere? Yes, we spotted him outside Mr. Garrett's house that morning. And he's a gas company employee? What does he have to do with this case?
So, Mr. William Shakespeare, you are the victim in this miserable affair, correct?
Oh heaven, oh hell, do you command me to remember? That sweet poison that didst crossed me, and crossed mine innocent lips.
I subpoenaed him for the trial, with his doctor's permission, naturally. Hearing the testimony of the aggrieved will remove any room for doubt from the jurors' minds, I'm sure.
Behold, you only have to rearrange the letters of my name to see that me's a seraph, an angel indeed. Thus be I of noble mind, sweet of nature, and verily honest of heart, as all heavenly angels be. Because there isn't a less contrived meaning in your name? No, not at all. The jurors seem to be very moved by this man, I'm afraid. They're actually taking this seraph anagram idea seriously. Well, yeah, people in the past were absolute idiots. I mean, they're worse now, but before it was bad.
Thank you, witnesses, for your illuminating introductions.
But, my lord, what's the man next to Mr. Shakespeare doing here? The gas man, I mean.
Me? Well now.
Allow me to enlighten my learned friend. You recall, I presume, your earlier impertinence, when you suggested the victim had another visitor to his room on the night in question, and moreover, that the victim was a compulsive liar.
Compulsive? We didn't say it was compulsive, we just said he might have been lying. What? Where did you hear compulsive from? What? No, I didn't quite say that.
This young chin-stroker...
I'm sorry, what? I need to drop my pen. What do you mean young? The man looks 23. He's 23. He looks twice that age. Matter of fact, Ryunosuke is like, what, 22? You telling me this man and Ryunosuke are basically the same age? Yeah?
This young chin-stroker is here to controvert your wild claims conclusively. Is that not so, Mr. Meterman?
Huh? Hang on. No, I'm just here.
I hereby call for your formal testimonies. You will tell the court as lucidly as possible what happened on the night in question.
One may smile and be a villain. Yes, it doth pain me, but let the truth be spoken, the truth of that wintry night of my discontent. Alright, and that is where we'll end things off for now. So, yeah, lots happened. We basically heard from Mr. Natsume what exactly happened that night, and we're now going to hear what exactly happened from Mr. Shakespeare's perspective. Seriously, I can't believe the man waited 2 full hours to let his tea cool. Like, at that point, just open the windows, because I think his room has one. Open the windows and just leave the tea right outside. I mean, come on now. Just come on. At that point. Anyways, that has been it for this episode, and I will see you all next time.